small steps, and every time I'm falling, I go to new depths. I will become who I've always been.
Hey, inspired entrepreneurs, it's Deb Hartnett here, and today we are pulling back the curtain on a conversation that is as real as it gets. It's Mental Health Awareness Month, and we are talking about the dark side of hustle culture, the loneliness of leadership, and how to break toxic patterns. We're talking about the success trap, a therapist's truth about entrepreneurs and mental health. Because let's be honest, you can't lead well if you're drowning in anxiety, burnout, or shame. You can't scale what you haven't stabilized. And you can't inspire others if you're stuck in survival mode. This episode is raw, it's real, and boy, is it unfiltered, because today's guest is a badass dear friend of mine and colleague of Veronica Cisneros. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist. She's an empowerment leader for high-achieving women, owner of Outside the Norm Counseling here in Temecula, California, and host of Empowered and Unapologetic podcast. So are you ready? Let's dig in.
Hey, beautiful lady.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you. I love your office. I love that your office is so beautiful that it looks like it should be one of those backgrounds.
I always get that. They're always like, is that a background? And I'm like, no.
I want to say thank you so much for joining me today. I feel like we've come full circle. I have yet to be on your podcast, but I kept saying, when I launch mine, when I launch mine. And so here we are. So thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview with me. You were the first person I thought of when I wanted to bring on an expert around this. I'm all about recognizing that it's not just about building a business, that it's also about building a life. So
Yes.
your business can fuel that life, not the other way around.
Yeah.
How important evolving and growing as a human being is as you grow your business. And I know you firsthand experienced that as well. You're a business owner as well as a licensed therapist, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think it's just so great to have you on, because you can speak from the business owner's perspective as well as the clinical perspective.
Absolutely.
In your experience, have you seen what may be the most silently painful or pain that most entrepreneurs carry? You know, the ones that
Yeah.
really wants to talk about?
Yeah. The silent pain is loneliness with a smile on your face. Entrepreneurs are praised for being resilient, but no one talks about what it feels like to constantly carry the weight of being the strong one, the one that makes all the decisions. You're the one everyone essentially turns to, but who do you turn to? Behind closed doors, you're constantly second guessing everything. You're making decisions sometimes based off of fear. You're wondering if you're a fraud, if you're going to fail, if your marriage can survive another launch, another decision, or if your kids will remember you as present or preoccupied. And that silence, it's deafening, it's defeating, and it's costing people their joy.
I see that a lot too in coaching. And I'm not married, you know, but that doesn't mean anything. You could still be lonely because maybe you can't talk to your partner about your business because maybe they just don't understand, and then you certainly don't think you can talk to your employees because of course you're the leader and you have to be the strong one. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did this podcast series on high achieving women, and that was the main thing that kept on coming up. None of our friends really know what it's like to be an entrepreneur. A good amount of them think, oh, you get to make your own schedule and you get to write everything off. Like, they look at all of the things that they think are needed to be entrepreneur. But the reality is there are 1,000% sleepless nights. And I just saw this TikTok video, and it was somebody having their lunch as an entrepreneur, and they're working and shoveling their food in their mouth. And then an employee, when you're an employee and that one's sitting down and engaging in with other team members and slowly eating. Maybe they've even prepared their lunch, right? And that was a great depiction of what it's like to be an entrepreneur. And a lot of people don't understand us. They don't understand our minds and how we think. We might be in the shower and all of a sudden it's, holy crap, that's a brilliant idea. I need to get out of the shower and write this down, or I need to grab my phone and do a voice memo. There's all of this creativity that's happening. And then when you bring that into relationships, there's not a lot of people that you can say these things to where they'll understand.
Yeah.
And then provide this level of validation or familiarity.
My commitment is that I'm not shoveling food in my mouth and not giving myself time for self-care and allowing myself to grow at the pace that I'm comfortable growing at. And when I say comfortable, it's still uncomfortable.
Yeah. Oh, 1,000.
I think that for a lot of us, especially because of social media, we have bought into this idea that we constantly have to be on, or we're going to go behind, or the competition's going to get ahead of us.
Yeah.
What I want this podcast to do is to tell and show entrepreneurs is another way.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're just tuning in or nodding along like I've been, you're listening to the Inspired Entrepreneur Podcast with me, Deb Hartnett. I'm here with licensed marriage and family therapist and host of the Empowered and Unapologetic podcast, not to mention my dear friend and colleague, 𝑽𝒐𝒂𝒂𝒅 𝒔𝒐𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 system can become your superpower. If this is hitting home, take a second and hit subscribe. And the most important thing is send this to a fellow entrepreneur who needs to know that they're not alone. Okay, back to this powerful conversation.
So, have you ever seen someone build what people on the outside would consider a successful business, but it really was at the cost of their soul?
Oh, yeah, me. Yeah. My husband has told me in the past, I'm tired of competing with your career. And I remember I asked my kids one time, we were going over our trust and we were going over how everything's going to play out if something was to happen to myself or my husband.
Right.
And I asked the kids, like, would you want to take over mom's business? Would you guys want me to train you and just take over? Now, if my parents said that, I'd be like, hell to the yes. Oh, my God. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. My kids looked at me and were like, no. Didn't even take a breath to think about it. They're like, no. And I'm thinking, I'm modeling for them independence, confidence. Like, why wouldn't they want this? And I thought they're going to give me the answer, Mom, because I want to be a lawyer. Well, Mom, because I want to be in fashion marketing, or I want to be an engineer. I thought that was going to be their answers. And they're like, no, Mom, because I've seen what it's done to you. And I was like, oh, crap. Okay. Holy moly. Things need to change. Things need to change. And there was a period in my business where there was so much transition that needed to happen, but so much transition. Here I am, I have $1 million company and I'm not really paying attention to it, right? I'm having my staff pay attention to it. Meanwhile, I'm doing the courses, the workshops, like all of these things. And my main focus is on building my personal brand and totally neglecting my business. And once I started to realize, girl, pay attention and nurture this business, that's when a good amount of changes needed to happen, and they needed to happen really fast. And what I realized was I created myself, or I positioned myself as this idol. Like, this is me. I'm going to celebrate everything about me. And even though I would joke about, I wish I could just put my family on pause. On the movie Click, I think it's with Adam Sandler. I wish I could just pause them real quick and then give me a year, because I have training. I'm going to build this product. I'm going to do all of these things. Just give me a year. I'll be back. Nobody's grow, right? Nobody grow. And I'm just going to totally stay laser focused. And I'm going to spend this year sleepless nights and get everything done. And then I'll unpause you and then we could be back to our merry way. I didn't realize I was doing that, except for they didn't pause. My kids are still older. My relationship is still, I'm still in it, but there are so many things that I'm sacrificing to meet the needs of these, I don't want to say unrealistic goals because I don't want to minimize my goals, but it was self-centered, and that's not who I am at all. Deborah, you know me. That's not me. But I was just so lost in the beast of success.
Yes. Perceived success,
yes,
right?
I was
Perceived.
so lost in the beast of success, and I'm going to pull something up because I want to read it to you. I was so lost in that I didn't realize how far I was moving away from my family and why I even started to do this to begin with.
I do want to read something, but I want to point out a couple things. So one of the things I'm hearing is the more you were chasing what society, what the market, what your industry, whatever it was saying, this is what success is going to look like. The more you were chasing what somebody, something else was dictating your success, the more you moved away from your values, what really feeds your soul, like your family.
Yep.
Now, not everybody has a family.
Yeah.
And that's not their value. But that is the biggest secret that if I could just shout from the mountaintops, here I am with podcasts about it, is the more you can stay centered in your core values, what really matters to you.
Yeah.
Build your business around that. That is true fulfillment. That is true success.
Yeah.
Not how much money your business is making. Not even the difference you're making with the business, although that can be part of it. It's definitely part of it. It's a big part for me. And I know it is for you, the difference you're making.
Yeah. Definitely recognizing that beast. And there was a lot of personal work I had to do, and hold myself accountable for what I was doing and deepen my relationship with my higher power. For me, it's God. Definitely deepen my relationship and recognize, okay, homegirl, like you think you're all that, but the reality is like this can be taken from you in the blink of the eye. And so you're not appreciating it. You're no longer living intentionally. You're wrapped up in a perceived dream. And I was reading Matthew Perry, his book. Oh my gosh, it was so good. If you haven't read it, read it. He says in the book, you have to have all your dreams come true to realize they're the wrong dreams. I was just like, I felt that. Oh my God. Here I am. I have all of these things happening, over 100,000 downloads on my podcast. The company made whatever number it made. And I'm just like, okay, let's go. Let's go. Let's do more. Let's do more. Never celebrating it. Never really being appreciative. It's okay. That was great. Now let's move on.
Yes.
Let's check that off and let's move on.
Let's move on.
Yeah. As opposed to really like sitting in and recognizing all of the work and all of the pain that it took for me to get to this place, and also show some level of appreciation to those that were there with me.
To those that were with you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hate to admit this, it's actually really ugly about
Yeah.
myself. But for the very long time, I really did relate to people like they were in my life to make my life go the way that I want. You know what I'm saying? I woke up to, oh my God, that is life.
Yeah.
The people around you are life.
Yeah. Yeah. And how can we serve them? How can we build them up? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
And that's another thing I hope that anyone listening to this, and please send this to people that you think this will make a difference to, is you want to do the self-searching. This episode is about mental health and evolution and how they connect, doing the personal work to be the kind of human being who can create a business that is fulfilling, right? Because is a reflection of your core values. What would that look like? Considering the relationships.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because that's why I started my business, Veronica. I started working independently because I was newly divorced with a 3-year-old. It wasn't even in school yet. I had the wake up that I don't want to do what I was doing before. It was a lot of travel.
Yeah.
And so then I started to work on what would it look like if I built something from what I value. I really wasn't doing it very intentionally at first, but then I realized I think I'm onto something here. What's one belief about success that you see slowly destroying people's mental health?
The toxic belief is if I just work harder, I'll finally feel worthy. And the truth is that is a trap. Worthiness doesn't live on the other side of exhaustion. It lives in the right now, in how intentional we are, in how we speak to ourselves, how you let yourself rest, how you choose to love yourself when nothing's performing. A healthier belief is something along the lines of my rest is productive as my hustle. My worth isn't earned, it's honored. And really focusing on like checking in with yourself. Where am I? I had somebody on the podcast. She had said, does your calendar match your values? And it was just like, holy moly, this is so spot on. No, my calendar does not match my values because there's nowhere on there where I'm engaging or interacting or communicating or sharing a memory with my kids. It's all work related. And there's nothing on there for me. And there's nothing on there for my husband or my friends. And that was a really tough reality for me, paying attention to that.
Every day I'm changing, I'm taking small steps, and every time I'm falling, I go to new depths. I will.
Okay. So if burnout could speak, I love this question. If burnout could speak, Veronica, what would it say?
Oh gosh, if burnout could speak, what would it say? Ugh. I begged you to slow down. You ignored me. So now I'm screaming. You promised me we'd rest after the next thing, but there's always a next thing, isn't there? And what I would have to say to that is burnout isn't failure. It's your body and soul waving a white flag. And when we finally stop, not out of choice, but necessity, we realize burnout was never the enemy. It was the truth. It was the truth teller we tried to silence.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how great if we didn't have to have a white flag waving, because we're always looking to have that peace. My commitment is that I am present, I am peaceful.
Yes.
But really understanding what burnout is.
Yeah.
And what's at the root cause. So I want to
Absolutely.
go a little bit deeper. My understanding is that, especially for entrepreneurs, there's a certain, there's different personality types that become entrepreneurs. But that hustle like that, it's never enough. I've got to keep going. A ball's going to drop. That's a trauma response, is it not?
Yeah, 1000%. So most high achievers come from maybe parents that have struggled with addiction, maybe parents that have struggled with depression and anxiety themselves. I want you guys to look at your life and who did you need to be to survive your household?
Yeah.
Who did you need to be to survive your household? Did you need to be the overachiever? Did you need to be the one that figured out the formula?
I had to be the people pleaser. And
Yeah.
I actually did figure that out for a really long time. I was walking on eggshells, and how do I need to be in this situation so that everybody's okay?
A good amount of us, especially high achieving women, they will stay laser focused on trying to complete a task, and they'll find value and self-worth in completing the task and struggle with maintaining emotional relationships, because emotional relationships, they can't necessarily control so much. And so when we look at When I'm working with individuals that are in this constant feeling of being in a rat race, what I generally see is not only are they struggling with anxiety, but they're also struggling with some form of depression. What a lot of people don't know is that both depression and anxiety are best friends. They show up most of the time together. And even though these are high-level top executives really killing it in business, multi-million-dollar businesses, at the end of the day, that loneliness has really imprisoned them. And when we're not checking in with ourselves, when we're not paying attention to our needs, your body keeps score, and it can only do that for so long until it taps out and it's past waving the white flags. Now it literally is shutting down, and you're experiencing, and I see this all the time. I've had surgeons come in here. I've had high-level entrepreneurs or high-level executives come in, and it's like, why the hell am I in the middle of a meeting and I'm struggling to catch my breath? I went to the hospital. I had my wife race me to the hospital, and they checked my heart. Did a full exam, and they told me this isn't heart issues. This was a panic attack. What the hell is wrong with me? I'm having panic attacks when I'm asleep. How am I having a panic attack when I'm literally asleep? Your body keeps score. And if you don't take care of it, it will do what it needs to do to survive, and it will start to shut down because it needs to. It's a form of survival, right? At this point, you've already pushed your body way past its limit. And so it's already waved one white flag, and then waved a bunch of them. And then the flag turned to complete highlight yellow, right? And you still ignored every single one of those warnings. And now your body is like in self-preservation mode. And so really paying attention to how your body is responding and all of the things that you're demanding it to do.
Wow. Thanks for really explaining what it looks like with that trauma response. One of my first aha moments and discoveries was like, oh my gosh. So this constant, it's never enough. It's never enough. I've got to keep going. I got to do more, got to do more. That's a trauma response. Just for people to really see the correlation between things that aren't working in your life, whether it's in your business or in your personal life, chances are at the root cause of it is some past trauma.
Yeah. Yeah. And really working with a professional to develop understanding as to what that trauma is.
Yeah.
A good amount of us will try to maybe read self-help books or try to figure it out on our own. And that just puts us in a deeper hole, as opposed to really, if you're starting to experience signs of anxiety where you have the racing thoughts, you have experienced trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, waking up, maybe you're not engaging in hobbies anymore, and maybe you find yourself compromising yourself to meet other people's needs. Really looking at maybe even the way that you're talking to yourself, some of the conversations that you're having with other people, really paying attention to some of those red flags and seeking help immediately.
Every day I'm changing, I'm taking small steps, and every time I'm falling, I go to new depths. I will become who I've always been.
Which is very insightful. Thank you for that. Okay. So, what's one truth you now know through your own life and work that you wish someone had told you 10 years ago?
What's one truth? You don't have to earn rest. You don't have to prove your worth. You already are enough. 10 years ago, I was chasing everything: growth, numbers, praise, and yeah, that almost cost me my marriage. That almost cost me even my family. And now I know this: your ambition, although it is beautiful, it should never come at the cost of your connection to your people, right? To your peace or to yourself. Never come at the cost of your connection. And that's not empowerment. That's a silent prison, right? When we're compromising our connection for all of it.
I just think this conversation has come full circle with what you just said, because we started talking about loneliness.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about connection. Well, what is
Yeah.
a disconnect? A disconnect is disconnected from what? From other human beings. Because we need that connection. Okay. So, what is something that a business owner can do to begin to heal past trauma and grow and evolve?
Acknowledge it. Acknowledge it. Stop ignoring it. Acknowledge that this is true for you. Acknowledge that this is where you're at for right now. For right now, this is where you're at. Stop brushing it under the rug. Stop ignoring it. For right now, this is where we're at. And just like you've been in business and you've asked questions for maybe social media strategies or maybe business ideas or financial advice, just like you turn to an expert to get that help, 1,000% turn to a clinician to get that help, because it will follow you. And I'm not saying that as a threat at all. I have seen it. I have witnessed it. And one thing I constantly say is, and it's part of the reason why I started my podcast, because there was so many women coming in with the same issue. And it's, if she would have just come 6 months earlier, even 3 months earlier, we wouldn't be at this point where now I'm doing my best to help her out, provide her with coping skills, and really challenge her outside her comfort zone. But I'm up against the clock because she's experiencing anxiety attacks, and she just came back from a hospital and she had a panic attack. What starts with an anxiety attack goes to panic attacks, and then we start having panic attacks regularly.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work once we're there. It's not impossible, but there is a lot of work, and you better have a really good therapist to walk you through that journey, because if not, yeah, it's going to be an uphill battle. So acknowledge it.
What are some telltale signs? What are some things to look for? What would I see if at the root of that's trauma?
It's hard to define with everybody if it's trauma. Let's go to like physical signs or symptoms.
Okay.
What we're looking for is, let's say you're in your day-to-day and all of a sudden you struggle to catch your breath. You weren't running, you weren't walking anywhere, you weren't doing any physical activities, and all of a sudden it was just like, holy moly, I struggled to just take that breath. You find that your heart sometimes feels like it's beating outside of your chest. Your day-to-day is consumed with these racing thoughts, and racing thoughts being the to-do list, racing thoughts being I'm never going to fill in the blank, or I'm always fill in the blank. The minute you start to hear I'm never, or I'm always, or they're always, or they're never, the minute you start using language like that, yeah, you're stuck in distorted thinking. That's a clinical term. You're stuck in that distorted thought, this emotionally driven thought. When you find yourself struggling to concentrate and you lose focus, you find yourself where all of a sudden your heart is racing, you're struggling to catch your breath, and it almost feels like you're dying. That is a clear indication of, if you're feeling like you're dying, that is a clear indication that more than likely it's a panic attack. It's struggling to catch your breath, racing thoughts, and you just feel maybe shaky, not necessarily like you're going to die, but like just shaky, that more than likely is probably an anxiety attack. So these are the things we want to look for in our body, and a good amount of us don't do self-check-ins. That self-check-in is so important, and it's important that we do that daily. It's so important that we do that daily. What are our thoughts? What are we thinking right now? Am I using words like always and never? Am I blaming? Am I catastrophizing? Am I fortune-telling? And then
fortune-telling, catastrophizing.
Huh?
So what would fortune-telling and catastrophizing look like?
Yeah, so catastrophizing is something along the lines of, this always happens to me. This always happens to me. That's
Okay.
catastrophizing. This always happens to me. I bet you anything, once we go there, then this is going to happen, and then this is going to happen. I might as well just do the job myself, because there's no way that my assistant or whoever is going to be able to do the work. That's when we're catastrophizing. Fortune telling is when we go, it's very similar to catastrophizing. Fortune telling is when we say, they always do that. They're going to do it again. They're going to do it again. They're going to do it again. Or something along the lines of, my husband's going to cheat on me. he shouldn't go to that business meeting because he's going to cheat on me. That's when we're fortune
So
telling.
they're extrapolating into the future,
Yes.
something obviously that they're afraid could happen.
Yeah.
And again, that sounds anxiety. Like that
Oh,
was anxiety.
1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%. But we tend, when we're not checking in with ourselves, when we're not resetting, that's when our body is overwhelmed. The clinical term is flooded with emotions. And so we're flooded. Our emotions are everywhere. Our body's physiological response to those emotions are so uncomfortable trying to get rid of them. And so we go straight to acting on urges and impulses. We want to get rid of whatever we're experiencing. And so we might work harder. We might then make accusations. We might then start an argument, right? We might not be able to have a healthy conversation and see it all the way through because of what we're experiencing. And so really paying attention to where you're at and being able to identify, the quickest way is identify what's going on in your mind. What are you thinking? What's happening to your body? What's your physiological response? And then what emotions are coming up for you, right? Am I feeling shame? Am I feeling exposed? Am I feeling insecure? Am I feeling overwhelmed? Am I feeling intimidated? What is happening for me right now? And that right there is a form of self-validation. And it provides your body with knowing, I'm going to take care of myself. Like, I'm now aware that these things are happening. So therefore, I am going to take care of myself. But now I'm aware, where before I would just brush it under the rug and continue doing what I was doing.
Wow. That is so valuable for people to be looking for those signs.
Absolutely.
No.
Yeah.
Every day I'm changing, I'm taking small steps, and every time I'm falling, I go to new depths. I will become who I've always been.
Veronica, I want to give you, first of all, I want to give you an opportunity to say any last things. And then I also want to ask you, do you have any kind of workshops coming up, or is there something you would like to share?
Absolutely. So I do have a free guide. You can access it by going to outsidethenormcounseling.com/resources. Again, that's outsidethenormcounseling.com/resources. And we have a whole bunch of tools, a whole bunch of things that are free guides for your audience. The other thing I would definitely recommend is, if any of this spoke to you, I want you to really sit down and imagine 5 years from now, if nothing was to change, what would my life look like? 5 years from now, if nothing was to change, if I was to continue living this way, would my marriage survive? Would my relationship with my kids thrive? Would my business thrive? Or would that internal feeling of being alone, would I make that 100% true? So definitely pay attention to that. Definitely pay attention to that.
Great. Oh my gosh, it's been so fun having you here.
Absolutely. I would highly encourage audience, listen to the podcast, Empowered and Unapologetic, and you guys can find me on social media. Hey, Veronica Cisneros.
And I have to tell you, I love you.
Oh, I love you too, Deborah. I love you too.
Wow. Okay, take a deep breath with me. Whew. From loneliness to reclaiming your power. Thank you, Veronica, for your truth and your wisdom. Now I'm going to leave you guys with this. Are you designing your business to serve your life, or sacrificing your life for your business? If nothing changed for 5 years, would you be proud of how you're living? The Inspired Entrepreneur is about building a business around your life, not sacrificing your life for your business. So grab Veronica's free guide at outsidethenormcounseling.com/resources and go to listen to her podcast, Empowered and Unapologetic. These links are also in the show notes. If this episode served you, subscribe so you don't miss more when more episodes hit. Review, please review. Let me know how I'm doing. And really, this is the most important thing. This is your opportunity to make a difference for somebody else by sharing this with someone that you think needs to hear this message. And I'll see you next week for more purpose, peace, and power. Welcome home. Welcome to the Inspired Entrepreneur.
Every day I'm changing, I'm taking small steps, and every time I'm falling,